Hi, welcome to my video on the negative GCF, negative greatest common factor. A lot of times in factoring, the leading term in a binomial or a trinomial or whatever number of terms you have has a negative. And I'm teaching now to remove that negative, because if you remove the negative in the leading term, then it makes the factoring of what's left easier. So we should have no negative in my leading term. That's the first term of a trinomial when you write it in descending order. Let's practice. If the leading coefficient is negative, factor it out so that the leading coefficient is positive. All signs change. By removing a negative, we remove all the signs. Let's practice. Let's do a recall. Let's simplify these. Negative 2 times x is negative 2x. Negative 2 times 3 is negative 6. As a negative, we could put a 1 here if we want. Negative 1 times x. Negative 1 times negative 2. Negative x times x. Negative x squared. Negative times negative positive 4x. Negative 3x times 2x is negative 6x squared. Negative 3x times 5 is negative 6x. So we multiply. We're distributing and multiply. Notice that a negative times these is changing all the plus, plus, minus, minus. That's a multiplying by negative. That makes that a negative, makes that a positive. You're changing the signs on the inside. To reverse the answers to A and D above, A to D above. To reverse, if we go to factor here, we have a 2 that's common, but we have a negative. So we should take the negative 2 out. Because the negative is the first sign, we should have my first term positive. So take the negative out. Not only 2, but the negative. So negative 2 divided by x is x. Negative 6 divided by 2 is plus 3. So notice, factoring this, taking the negative out, has the same as up here. I have a negative 1x, so I'm going to take a negative 1 out. Really, I'm taking a negative out. 1 is understood. So negative divided by negative is a positive. Positive divided by negative is a negative 2. So taking the negative out changes these signs to a positive and a negative. I'm going to take a negative out because it's negative leading term and it's an x common. So negative x squared divided by negative x is just x, and plus 4x divided by negative x is a negative 4. So notice taking the negative out changes that to a positive, changes that to a negative. And I have a negative 6, that's a 6 there. And so I have a negative, take it out, and I greatest common factor of 6 and 15 is a 3. And I have an x common, so there's the GCF. Because that's a negative leading coefficient in descending order of 2 and 1, I will remove the negative on the leading term. So negative divided by negative is positive. X squared, 6 divided by 3 is 2. And x divided by x squared divided by x is x. And negative divided by negative is a positive. 15 divided by 3 is 5. And I don't need any x's. So notice, that's a negative leading coefficient. So I'll take the negative out, changing these signs to a plus and a plus. Okay, now we got more practice. Factor each so that the leading coefficient of the polynomial, the leading coefficient, the first coefficient should always be positive. Let's go. We're going to take a negative out. Negative 1 understood. Negative divided by negative is positive. Negative divided by negative is positive, because that's a 1. So we just took the negative out, we changed the sign. Remember, that's a 1. And we got a negative again, negative 1 coming out. Negative divided by negative is positive. Positive divided by negative is a negative, because that's a 1. Think about it. Now we have not only is a negative coming out because it's leading, but 3 is the GCF. So it's a negative 3 I'm dividing by. Negative 3x divided by negative 3 is x. Positive 3 divided by negative 3 is negative 1. 2 terms here, 2 here. 2 terms here, there'll be 2 on the inside. There's a negative leading coefficient, so I'll take a negative out. And x is common. So negative divided by negative is positive. X squared divided by x is just x. Negative divided by negative is a positive, and 4x divided by x is just 4. So dividing by negative changes that to a plus and a plus. Multiply. Negative x times x, negative x squared. Negative x times 4, negative 4x. We have a negative leading coefficient. Take the negative out. 6 is not a factor of 10, but 2 is. I got an x cubed x squared, so I have a smallest exponent is a 2. So x squared is the numerical GCF. So negative 6 divided by negative 2 is 3. X cubed divided by x squared is x. 10 divided by negative 2 is negative 5. And x squared divided by x squared is 1. So I don't need any more x's. Again, that's a 3 and a 2 descending. So this should descend to a 1 and a constant 0. And I have a negative leading coefficient. Take the negative out. I have a 5 common. Take that out. And an x cubed. You have an x common. Smallest exponent is 3. So negative 5 divided by negative 5 is 1. x4 divided by x cubed is just x. Negative divided by negative is a positive. 5 divided by 5 is 1. X cubed divided by x cubed is 1. So that's 1, because 1 times that term will give you the same thing. I have an x here, no x's here. Let's keep practicing. And remember, the leading coefficient should be positive. And that's important when we go further. But I emphasize the negative. It's important. But I don't sometimes see the books emphasizing the negative that much, but I do. Factor each so that the leading coefficient is positive. Here we go, factor. I have a negative, take it out. Negative divided by negative is positive. Positive divided by negative, negative. So notice taking the negative out, change the sign. Negative again is in the leading coefficient, take the negative out. Negative divided by negative is positive. Negative divided by negative is positive. So that's, remember, that's a 1. So you put a 1 here and you multiply back, you'll see it. So taking the negative out is the same as taking the negative 1 out. Now I have a negative common, negative in my leading coefficient, but I have a 9, that's a GCF. So negative 9 divided by negative 9 is just an x. 9 divided by negative 9 is negative 1. I have a negative again, but 7 is the GCF. Negative 7 divided by 7 is an x. Negative 7 divided by negative 7 is plus 1. I have a negative again. A is the GCF. Take it out. And that gives me an x and plus 3. Negative a times x, negative ax, negative a times 3, negative 3a. So taking the negative out, remember, changes the signs. I have a negative in the leading term, and I have an x also. That's a GCF. So divide, and I'll get a y. Divide again, and I'll get a negative 4. And I have a negative in my leading term, take it out, and I have a 2 as a GCF. Here we go. So divide, and negative divided by negative is positive, just an x. 6 divided by negative 2 is a negative 3, and I need the y. Negative divided by negative is positive, 2, and I need the a. So just dividing by 2. But notice taking the negative 2 out changes negative to positive, positive to negative, negative to positive. 8, I have a negative 6. There's no numerical because that's a 1 and a 6. I just have an x. That's common to both terms, smallest exponent. Negative divided by negative is positive, 6x. I need an x. X squared. 2 subtract 1 is 1. And negative, positive divided by negative is a negative. X divided by x is just 1. I don't need any x's here. I just need one x here. No x's here. And I have a negative leading coefficient, and I have an 8 as a GCF, and I have an x as a GCF. 8 is the numerical, x is the literal variable. And negative 8 divided by negative 8 is 1. X squared divided by x is x. And a negative 8x divided by negative 8x is just a plus 1. Don't forget, you need that 1. 2 terms here, you need 2 here. Taking the negative out changes both of these signs to pluses. Perfect. I have a negative in the leading term, take it out. I have a 3 as a numerical GCF, and I had literal GCF as a 2 and a 3. I take the 2 out. 2 is common to both. And so that's an x. Negative 3 divided by negative 3 is 1. 3 take away 2 is 1. And 12 divided by negative 3 is negative 4. And I don't need any more x's. And I have leading coefficient, which is negative. And I have x is my GCF, because 1 is in every one of these. So negative divided by negative positive, x squared. Negative divided by negative is a positive. And 2 subtract 1 is x. And a negative, positive divided by negative is a negative. X divided by x is just 1. I have a negative leading term, and I have a 10 as a GCF. Negative 10x divided by negative 10 is x. Negative 20 divided by negative 10 is a plus 2. And the last one, we have a negative leading coefficient, no numbers GCF, no variables GCF, so just a negative coming out. Remember, a negative, I'm going to put the negative 1 there just for a bit of fun. You're taking a negative 1 out. Negative x divided by negative 1 is just x. 1 divided by negative 1 is negative y. Negative 6 divided by negative 1 is 6. So you won't see the negative 1 in front. What you'll see is just a negative like this. I just put the 1 there. I just put the 1 there to show you that that's a 1 right there. So I take a negative 1 out because there's no other number common. But the negative 1 is normally not written in. There's the answer right there, you see most times. That brings us to the end of factoring by removing the negative in the leading coefficient. Very important, as you can see, coming up later when I do more factoring on trinomials and difference of squares and perfect square trinomials. The negative leading coefficient should be positive, so remove the negative. And if you like what I'm doing, click the like button. And if you like what I'm doing, be a subscriber. Thank you. And click the notification bell if you wish. Write a comment on my video if you wish. And visit my math website at mathfullyexplained.com. And there you'll get information on 3 sections: me, my degrees and teaching experience. Section of video has the teaching strategies you're going to use to help you learn your math. And the content section has the topics and the number of videos on each topic. And the black font is what's online right now on my YouTube channel, Math Fully Explained. And the red font is what I'll be developing in the near future. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.